Welcome to a new episode of the Cool Girls Create podcast. It's your favorite host, Taniesha Westbrook, and I'm here with a fellow creator today, Donzaleigh Powell. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, so Donzaleigh, I'm not really sure where we met, but we move around the same circles in Nashville, and I'm really excited to chat with her today because she's a fellow creator who has transitioned from corporate America to entrepreneurship, but she just wears so many hats. So I can't wait to dive into the conversation. But before we get there, I have to start with an icebreaker. Are you ready?
I think so.
Okay, so if you could rewind time and be present for any moment in history and capture that with photography, is there a moment that stands out to you?
Oh my goodness. Um, wow, that's kind of hard. Because I would want something that's like timeless, like that, or kind of, oh, that's hard.
Well, it could be anything. So like a lot of times I think about like historical moments or campaigns or even if because you're like an event, you host events and do things like that. Is there any time where you're like out and about and you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is such a special moment um when it comes to connecting people?"
Yeah, well, okay. Well, I will say this, and this isn't, I'm sure this wouldn't be my top one, but just kind of off the top of my head. So right after, as COVID was kind of just still very present, 2020, Oprah had this huge conference in Atlanta called 2020 Vision. And my friends gifted me and like literally took me there. It was a group of us. We all went and it was absolutely amazing. Like I needed it at the time. And like literally I'm sitting there in the conference feeling like she talking to me. Like if she was sitting right across me, that's how I felt. So I got tears running down. I'm just sitting here like, and the aesthetics of everything was absolutely gorgeous there. And I would have loved to have shot that event. Like just how they do the lighting, my mind's going to all kinds of things was phenomenal. The clean, crisp looks that she has on her stuff. So I would have loved to have shot that.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I could definitely relate to that, but it sounds like your mind kind of works like mine. Like if I'm out at an event or a production, that's or a play or whatever it is, my mind starts going to, ooh, what did they do with the lighting? Or how did they get this to move here? Or like, so that's interesting. Okay, so let's get into it, Donzaleigh.
Yeah.
So I would like for you to share a little bit more about your background as someone who worked as a corporate executive, and I think in a lot of ways still do. How did you transition into photography and all of the endeavors that you're working on? What's your story there?
Well, so really, so photography's been around a long time. It was just a side thing, right? And so the reason that I even started, first of all, I was always the girl with like the camera in school, even when it was the little wind-ups back in the day. Looking back, you think about that stuff, but and then I was the one that always had all the photo albums. I still to this day, I've got a ton of photo albums in the back closet that are stacked up because it was so many and but never thought about it as a business, anything like that. I just like taking pictures. And a friend of mine bought me my first quote unquote real camera. So he bought that. I set it up on a tripod. I started taking pictures of myself. So I'm like, this pretty, like surely if I can take them of myself, surely I can take them of other people. And literally just jumped in and kind of went from there. And I just kind of every time I felt like, okay, I'm a little bit better, then I'd go up on my part. I just kind of took it day by day. And looking back at those now, I'm like, oh my God, those were horrible. I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, it just kind of gave me an avenue to kind of have let my creative side out. So though I was working these more formal positions, need to dress up every day and all of that, on the weekends or evenings, I was able to throw on the jeans, the hat, and just go play and have fun and create. So that's what I did for the longest. And then again, over time, I would take some classes, and again, just kind of progressively, every now and then get better, get more experience. And then I guess to today, to where when I literally kind of became a solopreneur, so to speak, I am, of course, trying to grow as far as, now I kind of have a team for the photography, videography, for those pieces and stuff like that. But it was really kind of like, you know what, I want to take this to the next level. And so I've just been working to do that.
So for you, was photography like a passion? Like I heard you say that you were gifted a camera and you were the girl who had all the photo albums and stuff.
Yeah.
But going from like a side hustle to I am going to make a business out of this and create a lifestyle around it, that's a little bit different of a transition. So is this something that is where your passion truly lies? Or are there other facets around that just lead into the photography?
Well, I think for me, I'm probably a little bit different in that I I'm one of those people. I would never want to do the exact same thing all day, every day.
I
I don't care
understand.
how much I like it. I don't care how much I like it. I wouldn't want to do it every day. And that has been the case with photography, and it still is. So that's why I still do other things other than, um, though it has become my main, it's still not a end all be all. And I like variety. And so, like, even looking back, again, when I was doing those positions and was wearing all those hats for other companies, like I literally had to go from, I remember a lot, because you know how it goes. A lot of times they place, somebody will leave or a couple people leave, they downsize, and when they create positions, they tack on a little. So really, it's
Uh-huh.
not one job. You're really already doing, and that's what I always ended up having, was a mix of multiple jobs. So I'd have to be talking about construction to one person, get off the phone and be talking about, oh, community services, and you're not nonprofits, and what programs you have, disability, it kind of gave me the range to be like, hey, compartmentalize, and then it go to this. And so that's what I do now, is just now I'm doing it for myself.
So just going back a little bit, when it comes to your career, so I
Yeah.
read that like you were in business development, and moved along that way. But what particular industries were you in? Because you just mentioned construction and also community service or community work, and I know that you were on that side as well. So can you just give us a little bit more color on
Yeah.
your corporate experience?
Sure. So my first quote unquote real job was, I was working for a nonprofit as a subcontractor, and we basically came in and cleaned up the TANF, or like the food stamp program, food stamp and uh welfare type benefits. So our job was to come in, and there were all kinds of people getting benefits that shouldn't, people that had passed, people were still getting the money. Like it was out
Mm-hmm.
of control. And even though I came in entry level, I literally moved up very quickly. So I became the supervisor like in maybe 4 to 6 months. And so I had to write the handbook. Like I had to figure it, and I was young. And so I'm up there like, you want me to do all this? But hey, I'm like, okay, let's roll with it. It was an opportunity, and just kind of fell in my lap. So I took it. And so again, with that one, that was one where, it was still trying to manage, trying to figure stuff out, trying to do all those things. And then I moved into working under Metro government. And with that, I was disability navigator, also still community service project, almost any kind of special project that was going on. It was, hey, here, Donzaleigh, here's this, figure it out, or run it, get the people in place, do all the things. And then after that, I moved into, the director of business diversity for the airport authority in Nashville. And so similar, and first of all, let me back up just a little bit. With Metro government, I ended up overseeing the Nashville construction readiness program. So that was my first little taste in the construction, like, okay, figuring out what the skills that were needed, how that pipeline even worked as far as getting them what they needed to be able to be successful. And then also on the business side. So those large prime contractors that are looking for people, what are they looking for? What are the criteria, et cetera, et cetera. And and then, so when I transitioned to the airport authority, it was like that times 20 because it was so much more. When I took the role, it was so much more construction. If you all have seen the airport, you've seen how much it was growing. So what you're seeing now is the stuff that we were working on, when I was there. And so it's great to see it, happen. But it was really all of that building, everything that's going on, the garages, all of those. It's so many little pieces that happen, and pretty much because we were representing diversity, almost every one of those projects had to come through me. I had to review it to see, hey, are you doing your fair share in trying to use a minority or a woman-owned business, a small business? I had to put percentages on that. I had to figure out, oh, no, you're saying that you can't find people, but what about these over here? Because what's going on? I need you to go back, or no, we're going to kick this out. So it was
Mm.
literally, it was definitely it was a challenging position, but I loved it in that it really was an opportunity to again connect with people, and it was definitely not the same thing every day. Let's say that for sure.
Yeah. So to me, it sounds like you've had a number of different positions, projects, and that requires a special type of skills. I think someone who's able to be adaptable, flexible, and the other part of that is overcoming,
Yeah.
obstacles. So I want to talk a little bit about your journey specifically as an entrepreneur. How did you translate, or what skills did you translate from your corporate experience to your entrepreneurial experience? But also, just reading a little bit about your story, I know that there's some things that you've had to overcome, coming up before you even graduated and things like
Yeah.
that. So let's just talk about those things.
Okay. So I mean, of course, I guess the from the beginning ish would definitely be that I was a teenage mom. That kind of completely changed my mindset. Now I still didn't have it together, but it just changed from being so, oh yeah, let me just do whatever I want to do and lackadaisy to, I need this. I gotta figure it out. I became, it's like the switch went off to progression, that
Mm-hmm.
I might not be perfect. I might not be the best at this or that, but I'm gonna do my best and I'm gonna keep trying to get better. And that has just stuck with me and has not left. Like I literally, I just, it's just something about it that I guess brings me some type of fulfillment in knowing I've given my all to whatever it is that I'm doing. And yeah, it's just kind of grown from there. So after I guess the teenage mom again just kind of went from, okay, still graduated on time, went straight into college, ended up going back later to get my master's degree, things like that. It's kind of, I think that stick to itiveness is what I like to call
Yes, I
it.
love that.
Because it is not always easy. Some days you are sitting there like, oh my goodness, like I can't, or I don't even know how. Like, so
Mm-hmm.
definitely I have those days just like everybody else. Everybody, sometimes people be like, well, that's why you get out. No, no, the same bucket of mess that gets dropped on you gets
Mm-hmm.
dropped on me too. But I just don't quit. I just keep going. And so same thing with, even with the corporate careers, same thing. You got stuff going on. There's stuff going on in the workplace that, some days you like, why am I here? But you got responsibilities and things like that. So you still do the best that you can. So I mean, that's just kind of how I went about it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess different people do it different ways, but that's what I did.
So one of the questions that I had for you specifically about entrepreneurship, because like you said, you have to have a certain level of, I like the way you framed it, stick to itness. I say, perseverance, or
Yeah.
like you can't give up.
Yeah.
Any of those qualities is something that you're going to have whether you're an entrepreneur or not. But as someone who, like you said, you don't really like to be boxed in when it comes to what you're doing on a day to day. So I know that you handle, you have your photography business, but you also host events and do a number of other things. So my question is, how do you balance it all? Like, if you were talking to a fellow up and coming creator who wanted to build multiple businesses, or, people like to say streams of income,
Mhm.
um, business endeavors, what advice would you give them on their journey?
Well, I would say first, each person is different. So just because I'm doing multiple, that doesn't mean that that's what somebody else needs to do it. And I would never recommend that if, it has to be individualized. So like when I if it you also have to think about what are your actual goals. So my goal, some of my goals in life, my end all be all is not being rich.
Mm-hmm. I could definitely
Do I
relate to
like to
that.
have money? Do I like to live comfortably? Oh, absolutely. Let's not get it twisted. I have a certain lifestyle and I plan to maintain and desire to retire early and all the things. So let's not be confused. However, from a best practice standpoint, I completely understand that the best practice would be find your thing, stick to it. Once you've grown it to where you can branch off and do your other things, do that. Totally understand and have no quarrels about it. But that's not for me. Because I guess because I love my life so much, by the time that could possibly, if that happens, I could be dead. And so I'm living every day. I'm gonna enjoy the things that I like every day. I'm gonna give my best every day to each part of those things because it sounds great and I understand it. And if money is if that is my goal, then I get it. Then absolutely right. You move in that direction to obtain that thing. That thing is not what keeps me going. So
That's I could definitely relate to that. I think I've had to find a balance between caring and not caring about money or profitability or, revenue, all of those things. Earlier on, I definitely did not care. I'd be like, I just need enough to pay my bills, because the things that I care about, I care about people that look like me. I care that they are aspiring to follow their dreams. I care about my community.
yeah,
And now, as I've matriculated, in my journey as a business owner, I have, mentors and coaches and things around me that's like, okay, it's great you care about you, baby, but you got to make sure that you
absolutely.
maintain that
Yep.
lifestyle. So I love what you're saying. It's like, find the balance between doing what you care about, what's going to keep you moving and motivated, but also make sure that you focus on a lifestyle that works for you,
Yeah.
and you can maintain that. So, um, the other question that I think a lot of photographers have that are breaking into the industry is, how do I do that? How do I break into a creative industry, whether I'm a photographer or somebody hosting events, um, in general? So what would you advise for, say, someone who's trying to build their clientele or get their brand out there, because you have a very strong personal brand?
Yeah. Um, I'm so here's the thing. I'm one of those. Sometimes I'll get a vision or I'll think about something and I'll be like, and I will wait a long time before I actually even start trying to do anything with it. But it's there and it's in the back of my head. And sometimes I'll have that vision and I'm literally doing it. Then I start doing it. Then I'm like, oh, I want to have this. Okay. I can have it here. Let me get the person, blah, 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 posting it with it. So for me, it's almost like I try to listen to, okay, on one side, the logic, does it make sense for me to do whatever it is, and when does it make sense for me to do it? And then sometimes I just feel like sometimes, and anybody that knows me, I'm a believer. Sometimes I just feel like he like, girl, do this, hurry up. What's taking you so long? I've been waiting on you. Hello, get it done, get it done. And then I just walk in that and I do it. And sometimes it's scary. Sometimes it's me forking out money up front out of my pocket, not knowing, hey, is anybody even gonna come? Is anybody? Sometimes it is like that. I like to have it where I'm able to plan well in advance and I already have all of those ducks in order. But sometimes it's not. But every time I just feel like he come through. So yeah, I guess when things like that have happened over and over again, that the trust level goes up. So I'm like, look, I feel like I'm a gangster out here in the street, because if he got me my back, like what? Even if something go wrong, it's like he gonna bring me through it. So that's kind of my mindset to that. So yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I definitely agree with this. So people glamorize like entrepreneurship or even something as simple as like hosting events. Like for me, I host festivals, pop-up
Mhm.
events. You know, there are tons of things out there similar as far as the concept of hosting an event or putting yourself out there. But one thing that a lot of people don't talk about is that there are going to be so many times where you're going to have to go out on the limb and trust yourself. I'm a believer as well, so trust God and everything else will work itself out. And sometimes you might end up with crickets, you know? Like the event is empty, okay?
Yeah.
Uh the five people showed up, they showed up, you make sure that you take care of
You
them.
give them everything that you got, them five that came, period. Yep.
Yes. And so that's why I really wanted to reiterate that, because when you're starting out, of course, it's important to build your brand and focus on your clientele, but you have to be realistic about what you're stepping into. And the truth of the matter is, there are going to be a lot of days where you don't necessarily know what the plan is going to be or how it's going to be executed, but you have to show up for yourself and the vision that was placed, inside of you. So,
Yeah, I think entrepreneurship, especially as a creative, can be, ooh, you might be on that roller coaster, at least until you get to a certain point where you've just completely built up whatever it is that you're working on, and then having things in place. But until then, sometimes it is. And I think being flexible, being patient with yourself. And then, like I said, always trying to still be open to learning, open to, okay, I might be okay, but maybe I do need to go to this marketing class, or maybe I do need to, learn this new app that's coming out. Maybe I need to be ahead of the game when it comes to AI. Maybe so you
mhm.
got to do your part too. It's not solely being like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna go with it. No, you put in the work. I call it faith with work.
So the last question that I had related to this in general was related to travel. So you typically are on the go. Like right now, y'all, she is at the airport. Okay. So so as a fellow creator and someone who is traveling, I'm traveling from March to November typically. How do you manage your life, your time, and travel and still be sane? That's the way I
Um,
could put it. That's the only way I could put it. How are you still sane?
I don't travel probably as much as it seems. I do have things that are going on, and I try to, wherever I go, I try to maximize my time, right? So though I'm here for TD Jake's leadership conference, but am I gonna do some shoots while I'm here?
For sure.
It's like, listen, if I'm here, let me maximize my time. Just like I would want to do if somebody was traveling to Nashville to do something for me. Like, it's like, let's make the most out of it. And then also, of course, it offsets things too. So that's always helpful. But that's all I can think of is really just I travel, it doesn't, I am a planner. So like I am constantly looking at my calendar, going back and forth. Like I'll have a list,
Do you
probably
have
in
a
these
physical calendar or do you use
both, both,
technology?
both,
Okay.
both. I like to write and sometimes I like to see it. So if it's something like that, so like just as an example, probably December, I was already writing out all of the dates and locations that I kind of thought that I was going to do, even if I hadn't bought the ticket yet. Figuring out, okay, yeah, I might want to wear this with it, this. Like I that way, by the time it comes, I'm not as overwhelmed because at least I kind of I know some stuff that I need to have happen. Or I start plugging away at little pieces as I look at my calendar again. Oh, that's coming up in 3 months. Okay, let me go ahead, book the hair appointment. Let me do this. So I just kind of I'm constantly reviewing to see, hey, what can I do? When does it come? When do I need to pay? What are the things?
Gotcha. And when it comes to um not just travel and like balancing your time, but moving from place to place. So you are based in Nashville, but you have, like you said, you have shoots that you're traveling to. If I'm an up and coming creator or photographer, is there anything in your journey that you can share with our audience about how to build an audience in different cities and different markets as a creator?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll say for me, one of the things that I like to do, especially if it's someplace that I either visit frequently or that I'm looking to go to. So I go, let's again, why not use technology if you can? So I use social media. What groups are there that are doing or in the areas that I like. So I'm always constantly looking for any type of leadership style events, creative events. So any of the photographer, videographer group, model groups, I'm in them so that they're in my feed and I'm able to see, oh, that's going on. And so I literally might see something that I'm like, that would be a good time for me to plan to go and also do my thing while I'm there. So it's again just trying to maximize the time, I think is important. So I would say try to do as much as you can digitally first, because I know everybody's budget isn't, oh yeah, I could go fly every other day or something like that.
Mhm.
So definitely make it make sense. But I think expanding your network outside of just maybe your regular parameters might not be bad if you're not in, if that's something that you desire. If you don't, hey, stay in your area and rock the mess out of it. But I love traveling. Though of course, just like with anything else, it can be tiring at times, especially if you're doing a demanding work, but I enjoy it, so I actually want to do more.
Yeah, that's the one. So I identify as an introvert, but most people who see me out and about might think I'm extroverted. But being around people, traveling, just the whole process is draining for me. So it's like I have to limit, that. But the what I wanted to get your opinion or thought process on is collaboration, because you just mentioned, it's important. Like you said, maybe you should expand your network. I'm like, I'm a double down on what she's saying is and say you should be expanding your network in all of those ways that she mentioned, like digitally and offline, because um you're a part of like women's groups and different, organizations on that front. And I think that's important as well to build your network from a community perspective. But when it comes to collaboration, I also noticed that you collaborate with other women. So what are your thoughts on that, especially as a photographer when you're like building your brand, your networking, your business? What are your thoughts on collaboration in general?
um
Tell me the
I
truth. Tell me what you really think.
so I definitely believe in collaboration. I think that you need to know and understand who you are collaborating with, and you need to make sure that that's a good fit. Um, I know how I operate. I know what type of experience that I'm going to try to provide for certain things. I know what type of quality that I want for certain type of things. So if I try to collaborate with somebody that it's not the same, one is here, one it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a clash because I'm going to be saying no, 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 and they're going to be saying yes, yes, yes. So I try to be very intentional and work through. Now, I don't expect it to always be roses for anything or anybody. I could have a twin and we still would be like, well, no, I like it this way. So I'm not saying that you can overcome those things, but I mean, just as far as how someone operates, if that's who they are, typically they don't vary too far from that. Even if they give a little bit, they're resentful about giving a little bit because that's really not them. And so I don't try to push that. And so I try to find either people that are in alignment with how, those type of things that are important to me. Again, the quality or the experience, the this or that, and doing what has to happen in order for that to happen, or that are stronger in an area that I'm not as good in. That way we
That's
kind of help
good.
each other. So I might be the one doing logistics because I'm going to be, let's go ahead and think about where are these tables? How much room are we going to have? How are these, my mind will go there and they can focus on something else that, I'm not as like, I'm not as worried about that. Let me let you do you and let me handle this, so stuff like that. I think just paying attention. And I think one of the ways that I saw that the most was actually in construction. There are things called with joint ventures where it's not just construction, but it could be something else. So where literally it's basically you're combining your businesses to make this business to operate whatever X is. And I will see where sometimes that would work beautifully and sometimes it would not. And when
Oh,
it doesn't, that's a whole business, and it gets into legality, it gets into all the things that you don't want to go down that road. So I got to see that before I even stepped in, kind of on this side. And it's very helpful because you need to know, as they say, who you getting in bed with. You really kind of need to try to figure that out. And that just might be some meetings, that might be some Zooms, that might be some let's have coffee. Or what do you think? How do you do your events? How do you plan for them? Asking questions. That way, let them tell you. I say be honest. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not that it's wrong that you're doing it wrong, but that might be not be a way that I can handle if I'm trying to do something with
yeah, all of the things. I'm over here thinking
you.
like, so, all right. I I have stories for days, but I try to I put a lot of them in the book that we got coming out, but this one is not in there. And but I want to just add some more color to what you're saying because I think it's
Yeah.
so important. So I I agree. Collaboration is important, and most times the approach that I've taken over the last 10 years is to collaborate. But like Donzaleigh is saying, you got to know who you are getting into bed or business with. And
Yeah.
so um earlier on, I used to have a studio over in East Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
It was a kind of a joint venture
Mm-hmm.
collaboration,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and we partnered with a makeup artist. And so it was like this one-stop shop for hair, makeup,
Yep.
wardrobe, and photography, right? From a creative standpoint, the chemistry was amazing, right? We'd all get together, work together, and it was good. From a business operation, um, moral or personality standpoint, it was
Yeah.
clashes all over the place, right? And
Yeah.
so I didn't have the tools or the capacity earlier on to deal with a lot of the issues and the complexities that came up in the partnership. So, of course, the partnership dissolved and it was over. But I learned so much from that about collaboration. One, don't just jump all in even if there's great chemistry,
Yep.
right? Because
Yep.
like you said, Donzaleigh, how are we operating on the back end? Okay. How are we dealing with situations? How are we dealing with conflict? How are we communicating? All of those things work together to create a good collaboration.
Yep.
So what I would suggest now is if you're thinking about collaborating is work on people in the industry like to say like alpha project or a one project at a time. So I have this idea, or you may have this idea. Let's test it out. Let's test the waters, see how it's going, and then we continue to build that way. And I think
Yeah.
that has been the learning curve for me. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
Yeah. No, I
I was
agree.
trying to keep it cute.
No, it was. You did a good job. Because some stuff, it could, because what you don't want to do, you don't want to get into a situation where you're now in being stressed, have anxiety, and all of those things. So like even something as simple, you mentioned communication. To me, that's very important. How are we putting this out? What is the word? Like, what are we saying? Because that's a reflection. To me, that's a direct reflection. And I don't care if my partnership piece is only this and yours is here, it's a reflection on me. And so I want to make sure that it is representing how, like, no, we're not throwing raggedy. Like, no. So if I was to get in a partnership where they just would put anything out, and then I just happen to scroll and see it. Oh yeah, like what? Hold on. Not that I'm saying I need to monitor all of your stuff, but I'm saying if it's something that we have not said, hey, yeah, we're ready to go. We're ready to put this out now. And I see it, but that's, to me, that's not good communication at all, and that's a problem. So yeah,
I agree. I'm
yeah.
over here like we have the same sentiment because do not play with me about because that's my brand, So I am,
It's
yeah, I do
important.
not play about
Yeah.
things like that. Okay, so we're gonna get into what I like to call the quick fire round, and then we'll close out with you just giving one last inspirational word to the cool girls. But before we get there, I do have another question. So, and we talked about, you just touched a little bit about this, about like mistakes or lessons learned, because I share about the partnership, y'all. I'll go into more detail about that. I promise, audience who's listening, when the time comes. But are there any hard earned lessons or mistakes that you've made in your journey so far that you can look back on and say, y'all probably shouldn't do that?
Hmm. Um, next, I say it's harder for me to say, I shouldn't have done this versus I should have done that.
Okay.
I think that's a little bit more relevant for my situation, because I can't think of anything other than, I guess the only thing that I can think of, I did, when I did open my actual physical location, studio location, um, that ended only because I had subleased and the main business closed.
Mm.
So that was probably, out of anything, the worst, because I did invest in, the remodel, all the things that you need to just be able to have a brick and mortar, right? But life happens, and again, I just kind of rolled on through it. I was like, okay. So I would say that, but I would say one of the things that I would have thought about sooner, or really tried to focus on sooner, even if I wasn't quite ready, was the scaling piece. The more of the collaboration with, or getting to know, I guess, photographers, videographers, things like that. And it's not that I was ever opposed to it. It's just meeting the right ones. A lot of times it just was not welcoming. It was not a welcoming community in the photography, area. And so I just, I with my personality, I ain't begging but nothing. I'm not finna run around. I ain't doing it. Yeah.
Wait one moment. Is the photography community not welcoming? Because I've heard this once or twice in the last 10 years from fellow photographers where like they'll reach out, they'll be like, how do I get started? I've reached out to photographers and tried to shadow people, but it's not really receptive. What's your experience there?
I just say, I know everybody has their own personality, their own thing. I just have not, since I started until here more recently, just I haven't connected with a lot. And obviously I like to connect with people. So I feel like it's sometimes I feel like, again, that's just me feeling, because I don't know, is it's almost one of those, you do something similar to me, and so it's just this like we can't be cool because you doing the same thing. You might be taking my money. And that's not how I feel about things. So yeah,
Okay, so it's kind of like it happens in all the industries. It's like
it,
what they say about crab in the barrels, or, people are just competitive, territorial, you know. Okay, so I didn't mean to cut you off, but you were talking about just your experience overall, like not what, not necessarily mistakes, but just things
but
that
with the
you would
growth,
have done.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I would have done that sooner if I had the people and the experiences where I felt like I could trust. Because again, we same thing as doing the collaboration. Some level of trust has to be there, especially if,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I'm gonna refer somebody to you, or I need you to cover this for me. I can't sense if I can't depend on you to be there on time, that type of. So it takes a certain level of that, and I just had not been exposed to enough people that I felt like I could do that with. And so, yeah, but now it's growing, and I'm even trying to do more and in different areas. So I'm excited about it. It is always going to be growth pains, but hey, it's good growth.
Yeah. So let's get into the quick fire round. Are you ready?
Yep. Mhm.
So one word answers, don't think too hard, and here we go. What is your favorite hosting destination for events?
I gotta say Nashville because I haven't had a ton of events other places. The only other one would be Louisville.
Okay, what is your favorite photography accessory or tool?
Flowers.
Flowers?
Mhm. I like
Really?
flowers.
Okay, if you had a superpower for a day, what would it be?
um, Fly.
You would be a fly on the wall?
No, I want to fly.
Oh,
You
you
said a
want to fly?
superpower, right? Did you say
I'm
superpower?
sorry.
Yeah,
Yes, I'm like,
you see everything real quick.
okay, you would want to fly. Okay, so tell me, what is a guilty pleasure TV show or podcast that you listen to or watch?
It's really not a guilty feeling. I love Family Business, but to me they were ratchet than a mud. But I enjoyed it. Family
Family.
Business on Netflix. Watch it. Check it out.
Oh my gosh, is it scripted?
It Yeah, it's a series. It's a
Oh,
series.
okay.
But yeah, it's kind of like a crime family sort of, but I loved it. Like absolutely.
Okay. I'm gonna check it out. Okay, and last question. What is your favorite snack or go-to kind of I guess reward?
You ain't gotta finish chocolate chip cookie dough or homestyle bakeries almond cake, the little petite square. Woo,
Okay, okay. See, I'm a sweets girl too. All right, so we're done with the quick fire round. So we're now going to close out with a final word from Donzaleigh. And I want you to just share something inspiring to fellow up and coming creators, photographers, and entrepreneurial women.
yeah, the only thing I can think of is don't lose that spark. Don't Even if you create a business and you scale it, or you try to maximize it to don't lose what got you there in the first place. The heart of it, what just the passion for it. I think that's important, and I think it exudes through you, and it exudes through what you and your business ends up doing. I don't care how large you get, so don't lose that. It's the best thing ever.
That's great advice. And I would agree with that. Because as a creator, it gets hard
Mhm.
when you are in constant business mode. And so it does sometimes you have to really like hold on to that spark, like
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
you can't lose it. And I've talked about this before, but I had like a year-long creative block. And
Mm.
so I was really sad, and I think I was probably going through some depression.
Yeah.
And more recently I've been thinking like, oh, I got to use my gifts, because if I don't, God's going to take them away from me. And so I just think it's important, what you're saying, like keep that spark,
Yep.
hold it,
Absolutely.
protect it.
And
Thank
one way not to do that is to not burn yourself out, which is the overworking and not keeping the balance that we talked about earlier, between, work and just you enjoying it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great piece of advice. Look, you talking to me too. I think it's a constant struggle, to just make sure that you keep that balance, or as
Yeah.
we like to say, that harmony, that work-life harmony going.
Yeah.
Uh, thank you, Donzaleigh, for
Oh, thank you.
joining me today. I love talking to fellow creators because we just get it. But thank you for joining me. I had a great time. Your favorite host, Taniesha Westbrook, Donzaleigh Powell, signing out. Peace.